Hello and welcome to We Are the Ville, the Westerville City Schools podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Amato. This podcast is designed to take you behind the scenes to showcase how our school operates and highlight our amazing programs and students. This is episode 13. What happens when students take on global challenges and turn them into real change right here in our community? In this episode, we're highlighting students from across the district who are doing exactly that through the Global Scholars Diploma program. As part of this capstone project, these students are tackling issues like inclusion, mental health, sustainability, and access to resources, not just by learning about them, but by taking action. From building meaningful friendships across abilities, to creating safe spaces for conversation, to addressing environmental impact and equality, these students are showing that making a difference can start anywhere. Each of these projects started with a simple idea, but quickly grew into something much bigger. Joining me today are four outstanding students, Kacee, Quinn, Anna, and Austyn. And I'm going to first start over here with Westerville North Senior Kacee. Kacee, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
First, can you tell me what is the Global Scholars Diploma program and what makes the Take Action project such a meaningful experience for students?
So the Global Scholars program it's a 3-year program. It starts off the first couple years are just kind of learning about the world, gaining some skills in global competency, and then the third year kind of takes on a different role, and you have an online program as well as this kind of culminating project called your Take Action project. And I think this is something that's so unique to the Global Scholars program because it's not just you learn about something and you can say that you've learned the material, but this is actually a different experience where you hands-on try and make a change for something that you're passionate about.
That's awesome. Now, what gap did you see at your school that led you to start a Best Buddies chapter? And can you go into it a little bit more?
Yeah. So I've kind of always been passionate about working with students with disabilities and just kind of connecting people with all types of abilities. And so I was able to volunteer in the special education class in middle school, but I kind of didn't really see that opportunity at North so much. And so the past couple years we've been having something called the All-In Olympics, which is where we bring students with disabilities from all across the district, from all 3 schools. And then as part of the Warrior Athletic Leadership Team, we kind of have a fun Olympic-style day out on the turf. We play games and stuff like that. So I kind of took that as a chance to bring light to my program and start recruiting some people to be a part of the program.
That's awesome. I've been to several of those All-In Olympics, and they're just so inspiring to see. And so what has been the most rewarding moment so far with your project?
If I had to pick one, I would probably say recently we had a Valentine's Day party as part of the club, and we had close to 50 students in total come together, and we had a super fun day. We were making Valentine's Day cards, decorating cookies, stuff like that, and it was just kind of really rewarding. I mean, it was super fun, first of all, and also it was just kind of great to see how my action project had really come together and made a difference.
Yeah, and how have those students responded to building those one-on-one friendships at North?
So I think for the first year, we've kind of been focusing on, establishing the club and really spreading it and bringing word to it. But I think as part of next year, we'll really take on that one-on-one friendship. So far, we've just been kind of having group events to kind of see what students, get to know each other and connect in certain ways. But I think since, we have seniors and stuff like that, obviously I'll be graduating. So I think next year it'll be in great hands and they can really start forming those one-to-one friendships because I think that'll be super valuable.
Yeah, and what do you hope, like you said, that you're graduating here in the spring. So what do you hope after graduation, how would this continue?
I honestly can't wait to see where the club goes. I think it'll be in great hands. The vice president this year, who's been working with me, one of my good friends has agreed to take it over. She's a junior, so she's already agreed to be the president for next year. She's really excited to start working. The teacher, Ms. Call, who works in the special education department, has already said that she wants to keep it going, as well as we have a buddy director, a student with disabilities. He's just a freshman, and so he's also been talking. He's already had ideas. He came up with the card-making idea for our Valentine's Day party, so I think he's also super excited to keep it going. So I can't wait to check back in, maybe visit them on some breaks and see how it's going.
That's great. And as a personal experience, my son is in special education at Huber Ridge in 5th grade. And I know sometimes developing friendships outside of his little class are super tough. So programs like these is a step in the right direction of mingling and bringing everybody together.
For sure. Hope so.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kacee. And now I want to kind of turn to Westerville North Junior, Quinn. Quinn, thank you for joining the show. You led a campaign campaign to raise awareness about overconsumption and organized a clothing drive that collected more than 600 items. What inspired you to take on that specific project?
I was originally inspired to take on this specific project by seeing its own effects in my life. I remember in the summer when I was first thinking about ideas for my project, I was running over a list of everything that I had a potential of doing, and one of the things that stuck out the most to me was overconsumption based on what I see in my own life and also with my peers. I know that overconsumption is a very prevalent issue in this day and age, especially because of the rapid rise of consumerism and buying a ton of more stuff, and I wanted to put an end to that through this drive.
That's great. And why do you think overconsumption is so normalized among teens today? I mean, I can go my own daughter's 13-year-old closet and I'm like, where did all of this stuff come from?
Yeah. Well, there's many different reasons for that, but I would say the main focal point and the biggest reason is probably through social media. There are lots of social media avenues that are promoting the use of overconsumption. I've seen it myself with all these big clothing try-on hauls, or even with a couple years ago, just an overconsumption in general with the Stanley craze and then the Labubu's. So I would say it's definitely a big part and a big factor is because of the social media that the kids are engaging in.
Yeah. Right now it's all those Neatos. Have you guys heard about that? These squishy things. My daughter asked for 7 for Easter, and I'm like, what are we going to do with this? But yeah, so what impact did collecting over 600 clothing items have on your perspective?
By collecting 600 clothing items, I was able to see how big of an impact that my school and my community was willing to make about this big issue. Moreover, even before I finished collecting, I was able to see how much these clothing items would be able to impact the community, because now these clothing items are being distributed into the clothing closets at other schools and also going to direct people with direct needs that require these clothing. So it was just nice to see how all the needs were to be met with these clothing items, and more so just to see the issue in my community face to face.
And that's great. And how can students make more sustainable choices moving forward?
There are many different ways to make more sustainable choices. This can come from thrifting or repairing clothes, or just in general reusing more clothes. And overall, the biggest one that students can do is just ask whether or not their purchases are really worth it. Because when it comes to clothing items, and with the rise of social media and different trends, all your clothing is never going to be fully on trend. And it's important to stay away from trends and mainly buy clothing that you will actually use, that won't end up in landfills and pollute the environment.
Yeah, and last, how has this experience changed you as a student and a leader and looking into your community?
Yeah, given the fact that I'm a junior, my first year as an upperclassman, it's made me it's made me more of a leader in my school and in my community, because I was able to take on such a task as sharing information about this to the different classes and also leading a drive. So it's definitely prepared me for my senior year, and I'm hoping to continue my leadership roles there.
Wonderful. Amazing. And I really appreciate both of you guys taking your time and sharing your projects and really making a difference in our community. So thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we just heard from Kacee and Quinn, and now we're going to switch gears and hear from Anna and Austyn. So our next student focused on a simple act of respect and can have a powerful impact on belonging and identity. Sometimes making differences start with something small but deeply meaningful. Westerville North senior Anna joins me now and created a system to help ensure students' names are pronounced correctly. Thank you for joining us, Anna.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so first comes first, tell me, where did you come up with an idea to start this project?
So the idea for this project has kind of been in the back of my mind for a decent portion of my life, as, my last name is kind of hard to pronounce, so, whether it be attendance, announcements, even award ceremonies, I've always had to kind of prepare myself for what pronunciation am I going to hear today? And this all kind of came to a head this year when I went to a tennis tournament to go play for my girls' tennis team, and I had just finished my match, and they typically call over, the next people playing and what court you're on. And I had been waiting for a while when all of a sudden I heard them calling for an Anna Lyslian. And I was kind of taken aback because I was like, who is that? Because I kind of know a decent portion of the girls there. So I'm like, maybe it's just a girl I don't know about. But then they kind of just kept calling her name over and over. And then they eventually said what her name and her, like, position, school was. And I realized that might be me. And so I go up to the booth and I'm like, hey, like, I don't know if you're talking about me, but, like, my name's Anna Lessline. Like, I'm from Westerville North. Like, are you talking about me? Mm-hmm. And she was like, you know, where have you been? Like, you have to be here by a certain time. And, like, you know, just lecturing me about you have to be able to recognize when someone's calling for you. And, you know, in my head, I'm kind of like, but you weren't calling for me. You were calling for, like, someone almost completely different. And so that's kind of what allowed me to come up with this idea, is just the fact that so many people have to relearn their name, or, like, the mispronunciations, because typically what will happen is they will be punished, whether it be, you know, missing out on attendance and being marked absent, or just simply missing an important meeting or something directed at them, simply because someone mispronounced their name and they're getting blamed for it. So that's kind of where the main inspiration for this project came from.
That's great. Why does something as simple as name pronunciation matter so much? You kind of already went into it, but, you know, give us a little more of why.
Yeah, of course. So I've kind of done a little bit of background research as well as some firsthand experience here. And the reason why name pronunciation matters so much on, like, you know, positive terms and the short term is because of, you know, when you're talking to someone and you're conversing with them, when you use their name in a conversation rather than nicknaming them or simplifying their name or even just straight up mispronouncing it, it makes the conversation a lot more personable, and it builds trust and just generally good feelings within that conversation where both parties can be involved without having to feel guilty or ashamed of something as simple as a miscommunication. And, you know, when mispronunciation does happen on the short term, what ends up happening is, you know, there's a little bit of insecurity with it and just kind of a bit of hesitation. However, typically it isn't, like, detrimental, it's just a simple miscommunication. However, the long-term effects are what I'm primarily focused on. And, you know, the long-term effects can lead to a buildup of that small insecurity to the point where someone may not feel as confident in their identity and who they are, and they may look down on their name, as well as just having general paranoia when it comes to events where their name has to be called, such as what I just previously mentioned, you know, attendance, announcements, stuff like that. And so that's some of the stuff that builds up, as well as, you know, having to relearn their names. So typically this is just a simple miscommunication that isn't particularly harmless for the most part, but through long-term exposure and experience with this issue, it can lead to a lot of damage to someone's psyche and how they view themselves.
Yeah, and, you know, that's a good point, because, you know, if I think I'm going to pronounce a name wrong, I just don't say it, you know, at all. And, you know, not thinking of the long-term consequences, but I don't want to embarrass myself or that other person for getting it wrong. So I just admit it, and really, you know, I need to take a look and say, oh, wait a minute, you know, because of that. So, yeah, that's great. And what kind of other feedback have you received from students and teachers?
So on the data collection side, where I collected a lot of data surveying how teachers and students felt about this issue, many teachers reported often feeling extreme levels of anxiety when announcing, you know, a new class or a new attendance sheet, when in reality their mispronunciation rate was actually fairly low from what they reported. And so that kind of gets into this idea that, you know, many teachers oftentimes before taking attendance will apologize and be like, I'm sorry if I get this wrong, I know I'm going to mess something up. So they kind of admit defeat before they've even been defeated. And on top of that, you know, things like overcomplicating or oversimplifying a name as well is what this anxiety can lead to. So that's kind of what this project is trying to combat on the teacher side of things. Whereas on the student side of things, many students often reported, typically underclassmen reported, that they felt embarrassed and frustrated about their names being mispronounced, and oftentimes were willing to correct teachers about, you know, this simple miscommunication. Whereas over time you see with upperclassmen, many just simply don't care at this point because they have gone so long into their educational career that, you know, what's the point in correcting when they've been called this certain mispronunciation their entire life?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I found data-wise. And then overall, many of my peers and teachers have actually been very supportive of this project, so I've surprisingly faced little to no pushback on it. I think the most pushback I got was being told to maybe focus on graduation instead of just freshmen for the sake of this project, which was, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you there. So, and Les, how could this idea grow beyond your school?
Well, currently I'm actually working on that, and I've kind of pre-planned it a little bit. So some of the ways that I've made it kind of sustainable and grow beyond my school is, for one, I've been advocating for it. So recently I presented in a Westerville North staff meeting, and I've also been working with people from the Westerville City School District, specifically in the IT department, to implement a feature on PowerSchool, which is a commonly used application here in the district to implement a phonetic spelling feature so that not only will people from Westerville North be benefiting from my project, people from South, Central, even like elementary schools and middle schools will benefit from this project way after I'm like long graduated and gone. And so I kind of considered sustainability very early on, and so, you know, I've kind of been able to balance things like graduation as well, and so it's just I've just found a lot of ways to kind of keep reaching out.
That's awesome. And, you know, that'd be a cool feature to have on PowerSchool if, like, you had a name and you had an audio version of that name, too, you know, that came out. That, you know, great thinking ahead. That's what we need. So, Anna, well, thank you so much for making a difference to these students. And now I want to switch from the classroom to the athletic field. Joining me now is Westerville Central junior Austyn, and she knows all too well the benefits of sports. Austyn created the Warhawk Equipped, an initiative that provides sporting equipment and hygiene products to students in need. Thanks for joining us, Austyn.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about Warhawk Equipped and why you started it.
So, Warhawk Equipped is a nonprofit organization I started to eliminate financial barriers that prevent students from participating or like being interested in sports. And I initially created it based off of a presentation I saw in class one time, and it was the school resource officers at my school. They were talking about the care closet at our school, which provides like hygienic products and clothes. And I was like, oh, like that'd be so cool to like expand upon and make it more accessible and put more eyes on it, just so people feel less social insecurity about going and getting those things. And so I started it, and then I started realizing that I could tie it into sports because, honestly, being an athlete, I know people that have not been interested in sports because of the fact that they had financial insecurity. And I was like, oh, like, dude, that sucks. Like, let me just help you out with that. So I did, and I wanted to do it, so I did it. And I started Warhawk Equipped. It took me about a month to make the presentation and pitch it to my athletic director and my principal. Loved it. That was great. And so then we expanded upon that. So now we take in donated athletic equipment, and I distribute that. It's all anonymous. It's great. You can fill it out online, and we'll get it to you in like a week.
That's great. And how do financial barriers impact, you think, students' ability to participate in sports?
Financial insecurity is a big factor, especially for sports nowadays. And I think one of the biggest contributing factors to that is the pressure of social media. Because a lot of times it's not really about how well you're playing when you first start out. It's about feeling like you're fitting in. And a lot of times not having the right gear can impact how you feel around your teammates, classmates, and community as like a whole. And so I found that many of my peers had all felt that way one time or another when joining a sport, starting a new sport, or even playing a sport that they've been playing forever. And it makes you not feel as welcomed within that community, even if people aren't outrightly judging you. It's still like, oh, like, dude, that sucks. Like, and so it made me think about the issue about team sports, and it made me realize, like, when students cannot afford anything at all, it makes them feel even more insecure and more defeated. So I wanted people to feel welcomed in team sports because I love playing sports with my teammates. Like, that's my favorite part about going to practice playing games is being around my friends all the time. And I think team-based activities like athletics bring kids together and create a sense of community. And sometimes people that have financial insecurity lack that sense of community because they don't feel included. And I was like, dude, like, that sucks. Like, it's something you can't control. So I wanted to go in and I wanted to fix that problem, and so I did.
Yeah, and I forgot, what sports do you play?
I play basketball and softball at Central. I love it. Love everyone.
Yeah, and what kind of response have you seen from students so far? A lot of people donating or using the closet for that reason.
Well, to be honest with you, it's really fresh, and we launched last month. And since then, my principal and my athletic director have been the best people ever, and they have been putting me into so many opportunities and places where I can advocate, especially like this. Like, this was a great opportunity for me to put more eyes on it. And I've only had positive responses. Like, I've had so many people come forth and be like, hey, like, I want to donate. Hey, I want to put you out on the spotlight. Hey, I want to donate. I want to contribute. Just like, what can I do? And I actually have recently partnered with the Columbus Running Company.
Oh, great.
Reps in them.
Yeah.
Shout out. They're great, most respectful people ever. They're willing to work with me all the time. And since I've gone through and I've talked to every single coach at Central that I could, I literally went around one day and was like, hey. And so I went around and I talked to all of them one-on-one, had a great conversation. Everyone was so supportive. I've never heard a bad response. Everyone was willing to communicate. And networking has been like the best thing ever. And I've only gotten extremely positive responses. And my athletic director opened monetary donations so we can go in and just directly purchase things. Yeah. And since then, people have only been donating. It's been amazing.
That's a great example of networking and getting out into the community for your projects. And, that's such a valuable skill that you've now of learning to take you further beyond, the walls of the district, et cetera. So last, I want to summarize everything up. And you got into the Global Scholars program, but why is it important for students to connect global issues to local action and get involved in this?
I think it's important to me because I can say that I live a very privileged life, and I'm thankful for all the things my family and friends have given me. But I think it's important to still be educated on social injustices and issues, and I think it's easiest to start within your school, and then you can make it an impact there, and then you can go to your community, you can go to your city. It just kind of builds upon each other, and sometimes the hardest part is just starting it, and Global Scholars is a beautiful way to be open to more ideas and understanding that life is not just in your little bubble. And it's easy to make an impact step by step by step. And it's the little things that kind of build on top of each other. Like when I started this, it was just a little presentation I showed my principal, and now it's like huge and everyone loves it. And sometimes I think it's important to be educated on those issues because you need to understand the value of meaningful work and giving back to the community that has given back so much to you. And Westerville has given me everything. I love living here. And so I was like, what can I do in order to make an impact on the city that gave so much to me?
Tear in the eye. I really appreciate it. So once again, thank you, Anna and Austyn, for joining us. And thank you for making a difference in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, these students are a powerful reminder that you don't have to wait to make a difference. You can just start now. Through the Global Scholars Diploma program, we've taken big global issues and then turned them into meaningful local action, impacting their peers, their schools, and their community in lasting ways. Until next time, we hope these stories inspire you to find your way and to take action. Why? Because we are the Ville.